Hi, I'm Eitimad Hashim. In this video, we are going to learn about part 3 of community ecology and species interactions. In the previous lectures, we were discussing oppositional relationships, predation and competition. And in this video, we are going to discuss symbiotic relationships, parasitism, mutualism, commensalism, and amensalism. The symbiotic relationships, parasitism, mutualism, commensalism, and amensalism, we are going to discuss in this video, in addition to some species that exert strong control in community structure, as well as aspects of some community organization of structure of species biodiversities, and the process that have effects on communities. Example for symbiotic relationship, parasitism. Parasitism is a relationship in which one organism get benefit, and then we call it the parasite, while the other one is harm, and we call it the host. This is positive negative relationship. For example, mosquito carrying malaria parasite or carrying a parasite, then when feeding on a human, the human will be the host, then transferring the disease that carried by that parasite for the human, for example, of the disease malaria. This is called parasitism relationship. Another example would be like would be the lice. The lice is an example of the parasite because it carries parasite on the parasitism on the human. They feed on the blood from the human head. So the relationship is called parasitism. The parasitism relationship affect on the population because if the population of the parasite increase, they will kill the host. So this means your host for the parasite, so the population decrease. So this allows the host population to recover each time when the parasite population also to recover. When the host blood, for example, that the parasite feed on decrease, the parasite will reproduce and increase because taking too much blood from the host, and vice versa. When the parasite being too many, then they will pull out a lot of blood from the host, so they by decreasing the resources. But every time the host and parasite, they will recover, and this evolve new response to the other. When they evolve new response to each other, we call it co-evolution, and they will be in a cycle. So each one depends about its own life. Other example for symbiotic relationship is mutualism. Is a relationship in which one organism benefits, not one organism, both of the organisms are benefit from their interaction. So it is called positive relationship. Let us have an example. Here, this bear get nectar and honey from the flower. So the bears contribute back to the flower by spreading the pollen from the plants in order to grow in other places. So the flower can reproduce and spread disperse so nicely. As example, bee, bats, and pears and other that transfer pollen from one flower to another, and then fertilizing it and put it into the other flower, and then it fertilizing its egg, and then they can reproduce and or distribute in the environment. As example of the same example for mutualism, we got the acacia plant. But here, sometimes the scientists notice that the mutualism has two kinds. One of the kind of them or types. One of the types is obligate, where one species can survive without the other, and the other one is facultative, where both species can survive alone, and it's optional. They can be together or not together, because all of them will get a benefit. So, let us have an example here is an acacia tree and the ant. They are in mutualism relationship. The acacia tree provide food or nectar and accommodation for the ant, And the ant in return this favor by protecting the plant not to be attacked by caterpillar, deer, or any other animals. Let us see something about commensalism symbiotic relationship. In the commensalism is a relationship in which one organism benefits while the other remain unaffected. It is a positive and neutral relationship. Example for it, this is small fish, called pilot fish, because they follow the shark. They follow the shark underneath in order to eat the shark scrap food, pieces of food, the remaining of the shark pieces of food. So the shark is not affected and the pilot fish get benefit by eating shark scrap pieces of food. Another example for commensalism is a bird nest bird in a tree. On a tree. The bird build a nest on a tree. The bird get benefit, have a shelter, have a house, have a home on the tree, and the tree is getting anything in return. So it is commensalism, but not harm at the same time. So it is commensalism. Other example for commensalism between cattle egret and water buffalo. Cattle egret and water buffalo. The egrets eat insects of the buffalo, so they get benefit, but the buffalo, it's okay. Other example for symbiotic relationship, commensalism. Commensalism is a relationship in which one organism is harmed while the other is unaffected. This is exactly opposite to the commensalism. In the commensalism, one organism is benefit while the other is unaffected. But here, commensalism, one organism is harmed while the other is unaffected. Example for it, the allopathy. Allopathy, they are certain plants release poison chemicals to harm other nearby. Also, this allopathy phenomena is a characteristic also of for plants, algae, bacteria, coral, and fungi. And let us have an example. This is pine tree, Australian pine tree. Suppress germination of understory plants. Prevent understory plants to grow. Despite the relative openness space of the canopy and there are ample rainfall at the location, but it secretes some poisons, so there is no one can grow or germinate underneath it. There are some species exert strong control on the community structure. We will see how the species can affect the community structure, like dominant species, keystone species, and foundation species. And also we will see why do communities vary in species composition and species diversity, and all sorts of things we will go through to see how the species exert control or affect on the community structure. Types of species. There are some species called dominant species. Dominant species, most abundant species. Most abundant species means with highest biomass, powerful control over occurring and distribution of the other species. You will see just one is dominant. Interstitial ecosystem, dominant species most of the time or always being primary producer because consumer biomass is always less than the producer biomass. And what is the effect of the dominant species on the community structure? The removal of dominant species result in the decrease of the biodiversity within the ecosystem. For example, if you look here at this salt marsh picture or image, you will see that there are one species of the grasses grown in this marsh. If we remove the grasses from salt marsh, then the salt marsh will have a decrease in the biodiversity in the number of the species that are present here. Also like a mangrove forest. When a mangrove grows, it dominant in the area, so removal of it will decrease the biodiversity. Also in animals, for example here as a sea tide or littoral place, when the water cover, just one species of these they are dominant here and the other one dominant as the top of it. So if we remove it, we will decrease the biodiversity within the ecosystem and then the community structure will be affected. Also, there is other type called keystone species. Keystone species not necessarily most abundant, but exert a strong control due to their ecological role on the environment or on the niche. Because removal of the keystone also causes decrease in species richness. Let us have an example: otters and sea hurricane. All of them, otters feed on the sea hurricane and sea hurricane feed on the cliff or on the aquatic plant. During 20th century, sea otter population will greatly reduce. They reduce, the sea otters reduce. So more sea hurricane began eating the club, the tree. So the club decreased. When the sea otters were reintroduced back, then the club forest recovered. They grow again. Because when there is sea otter that eat the sea hurricane, so the plant grow and be in a healthy condition. Too much of the club forest will be there. But when the sea otter removed from the community or reduced in this population, then more sea hurricane eat more of the club forest, and then the club forest will be destroyed or reduced in number. Therefore, otters are keystone species because they keep the number of hurricanes in check by allowing the club or the plant to survive. Also, we got other type of species called foundation species or ecosystem engineers. This species, foundation species or ecosystem engineers, they cause physical change in the environment that affect the community structure. For example, they facilitate that they have positive effects on the survival and reproduction of other species in the community. Let us see how. So the foundation species, the ecosystem engineer, begin to building dams across the streams, upstreams, in the ponds and wetlands. So by that they reduce the gradient, the flow of the water, and the erosion, and they protect their area, and they can easily store their food. Meanwhile, they doing that for themselves. They create habitat and ecosystem for other aquatic plants and animals, because by making building dams in the area like houses or something like that, so they can change in the community for their benefit. They change it to be a place to store their food, a place for the other aquatic aquatic animals and plants to reproduce, or also to grow and to be recovered from erosion, or to be protected, and be to protected area for the reproduction and grow of the other community. So the beavers is an example of ecosystem engineer. Beavers is one of the example of foundation species, or we call it ecosystem engineer. Also, there are some type of species exert strong pressure on the community or affect control the community structure, like invasive species. Invasive species, non-native species, also called exotic species, also called introduced species. The introduced species or organism spread widely and become dominant in a community. For example, this is their problem. They can spread widely and become dominant in a community, even they were absent from the community in the past. For example, the zebra mussel, this molluscus, introduced in Lake Street, Clare in Canada, 1988. Within 2 years, the zebra mussel invade all the 5 Great Lakes in Canada. So they grow exponential with no natural, because there is no natural predator, there are no competitors, there are no parasite. They just introduce to a healthy ecosystem, to a new ecosystem, without predator, without competitor, without parasite. This results in huge economic impact by invading 5 Great Lakes in few years, 2 years, and they being fundamental disturbance for the coastal and lake ecosystems. Also, it is very important for the community to have species diversity because communities with high diversity are more productive and more stable. Regarding their productivity, when the community is more stable and more productive, they be better able to withstand and recover from any environmental stress. And even, for example, they can resist the invasive species, organisms that establish outside their native range. So, species diversity of a community make up the community, and it has two main components. When you speak about species diversity, we're speaking about species richness and relative abundance. Species relative abundance. Let us see what is meaning by species richness and species relative abundance. Species richness is the number of species that are present in the community, and relative abundance is the proportion of each species represents in the community. So it is very important for the community to be stable and to be more productive to have species diversity with its species richness and abundance. Regarding the video summary, we were speaking about some symbiotic relationships such as parasitism, mutualism, commensalism, and adhesionism. Also, we cover community structure, how the community structure help us understand the world function and how species interaction affects the communities. Thank you so much. This is the end of the lecture and the video. Please like, share, and comment on the video, and don't forget to press the notification button. Thank you so much.